President Trump calls 6 Democratic lawmakers traitors, says their crimes punishable by death. They've responded, and so have plenty of others. The CDC reverses course on vaccines and autism, saying the two may be linked, breaking from an RFK Jr. confirmation vow. Cost-cutting consumers are turning to duck, yes, duck as a cheaper alternative to turkey this Thanksgiving. A takeout first. We will cook a meal right here at the family table. Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Let me welcome you to the Takeout. We did not expect to start tonight with Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. We are, because a debate, if you can call it that, broke out today over what it means, and calls by the President of the United States for charges of treason against 6 Democratic members of Congress. Treason, as you might know, is punishable by death. President Trump amplified a Truth Social post calling for the lawmakers' death by hanging. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where we are. Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice says service personnel must obey lawful orders. Failure to obey lawful orders can result in court-martial. There is, however, an important qualifier. Military personnel have a duty to disobey a manifestly illegal order. That means the order's illegality must be, quote, clear and obvious. Examples: orders to target civilians, orders to falsify documents, orders to commit crimes. 6 Democrats in Congress, all of whom served in the United States military or the U.S. intelligence community, released a video to members of the military and intelligence community, and here, from that video, are the most pertinent excerpts.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
But from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
So let's dig into this a bit. In California, the Democratic governor challenged the legality of Trump's National Guard deployments there. For a member of the military, following that order to deploy would be legal. Yes, legal. Why? Because of the order's presumptive legality and that it flowed in the proper chain of command from the Chief Executive of the United States on down. The lawmakers who put out that video said only illegal orders can be disobeyed. Nevertheless, Trump called the video, quote, seditious behavior at the highest level, unquote, said the lawmakers, quote, should be arrested and put on trial, unquote, and here is the repost calling for the lawmakers to be hanged. House Speaker Mike Johnson, by way of defense of Trump, said the Democrats told troops to, quote, disobey orders, unquote. You can judge that line of defense for yourself. There is, of course, some history here. Trump, many, many months ago, warned about enemies here at home. He meant Democrats in government. Listen.
We have 2 enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries.
Democratic leaders in the House and Senate today denounced Trump's rhetoric, as did Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. One of the senators in the video, Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan, a former CIA officer, had this response to the president.
If fear is contagious, so is courage. And I think when a lion's share of Americans understand that it is in their own power to push back on this kind of rhetoric and this kind of threat, that's when we actually turn the tide. And I'm not going to shut up because Donald Trump is threatening me.
Starting us off tonight, North Lawn of the White House, Nancy Cordes. Nancy, you had an exchange with Caroline Leavitt during today's White House press secretary briefing. Let's play that exchange for our audience.
The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually, what they said is you can refuse an illegal order.
But they're
suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not.
So the White House is holding on to that idea of the suggestion, the implication from this video. Nancy?
That's right. The case that Caroline Leavitt made today is that it isn't the president's speech that is incendiary. It is this video put out by Democrats in which she said that they incentivize the 1.3 million members of the military to disobey the chain of command, something that she said could lead to chaos, even lead to people getting killed. But there was this uproar on Capitol Hill, Major, after the president said that these 6 Democratic lawmakers should be put to death. A lot of Democrats who said that President Trump was putting them at risk, that he has supporters who are unhinged, and that he has just sent a powerful message to them that the Democrats are the enemy and that they deserve to die. The president didn't then repeat his threat, but he didn't delete it either.
And Nancy, this week alone, there is a bit of a backdrop to this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican from Georgia, has said, because she has now since broken with President Trump, or President Trump broke with her, that she has been subjected to greater threats of violence. In Indiana, where the president is unhappy with state lawmakers over their unwillingness to draw new congressional lines there, members of the state Senate have said they've experienced threats and swatting episodes in Indiana. These things are playing out this week. It's a live wire.
Right. And these 6 Democratic lawmakers have now been granted additional security, Major, because they anticipate that there will be a larger volume of threats coming their way. And one Democratic Senator, Chris Murphy of Connecticut, said today, we have kids. And, you know, every lawmaker is now getting on the phone with his or her chief of staff to figure out how we can better protect ourselves this weekend. So, you know, there's already a heightened state of alert. We know that over the past few years that threats to lawmakers have increased exponentially, and they argue that this is just throwing another log on the fire.
From the North Lawn, Nancy Cordes, thank you so very, very much. Well, the U.S. jobs report for September, it was delayed due to the shutdown, released today. It found employers added 119,000 jobs in that month of September. That number was twice what economists predicted. The unemployment rate ticked up 4.4%. Kelly O'Grady joins us now from the New York Stock Exchange. Kelly, I want to show the audience what it looked like on Wall Street today. Kind of schizophrenic. In the morning, as we bring that graphic up, all this green, I think it was up like 620, 630 points in the Dow, and then cratering down across into the red. I think it closed down, 386. Why the schizophrenia? Do we know?
So 2 reasons. And in fact, if you look at the full swing of the Dow, it was a more than 1,000 point swing on the day. It was pretty stunning because you're right. We were actually up over 700 points at the beginning of the day. And the reason was 2, right? You had a good jobs report, 119,000. We were expecting 50,000, allayed some fears that the labor market was falling off a cliff. That was one reason. The other reason, of course, NVIDIA earnings. We talked about this yesterday. A lot of investors were like, okay, let's breathe a sigh of relief. The AI trade is alive and well. And then they started digesting the numbers. And so you saw the deep red. I think we finished off session lows, but still down about a percentage on the Dow. One, the good jobs report in September, it's a good news equals bad news. We are likely not going to get an interest rate cut because if you aren't seeing further weakening in the labor market, let's remember that's still a September number. There's been a number of months since then where things might have been different. You're not going to have the Fed cut rates. The other thing is investors digested that AI trade a little bit more and thought, well, okay, maybe if people are buying NVIDIA chips, that's great for NVIDIA, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be able to turn a profit. Maybe there's still an AI bubble. So those 2 things together, Major, really dragged the market down today.
Kelly, let me ask you something the White House talked about today in a couple of different instances, Vice President Vance and others, that affordability, they're stung by that, but they're saying every month this year, since President Trump took office, real wage growth has outpaced inflation, and people actually have more disposable income than they had last year. Is that actually true?
So on the whole, yes, wages have been rising faster than inflation. In this jobs report, though, it was a little bit weaker than we expected on the month. It rose 0.2%. On the year, though, it was 3.8%. So that is higher than inflation, but that growth was flat versus last month. We like to see that increase more than inflation because that's what helps you kind of get rid of that crunch in the pocketbook. And if you look at the 5 years, so now we're looking at both the Trump and Biden administrations, prices have risen over 24% and wages have risen less than that. So this is kind of a multi-year problem. They're right in the sense that wages consistently have been during this administration, but this is a multi-year problem that you're sort of playing catch up from. It's going to take a while to really take effect.
Multi-year problem with genuine political impacts. We saw that recently in the elections. Kelly O'Grady, New York Stock Exchange, thank you very, very much. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says he is working, that's his terminology, working with the United States on its new plan to end the war with Russia, the one that Russia started, we should underscore. Zelenskyy met, you can see him there, U.S. Secretary of Army Daniel Driscoll today. This comes after a White House official confirmed to CBS that the president has signed off on a 28-point plan designed to end the war. No indication that Ukraine backs all 28 or even half or even a percentage of those 28 points in currently written. Former Ambassador to Ukraine, William Taylor, joins me now. Ambassador Taylor, it is reported, and I'd like your perspective on this, that much of this 28-point plan drafted by the United States with consultation with Russia and not that much consultation with the Ukrainians. Is that true?
That's what we hear, Major. That's exactly what we hear. We have seen documents. We've seen versions of this 28-point plan. I'm not sure it's the final or it's even the one that's been presented to President Zelenskyy. But it's very lopsided. It is very pro-Russia. It's as if the Russians did ask for a lot and got a lot of what they wanted.
And is that a negotiating tactic? President Trump likes to think of himself as the art of the deal maker. You give Russia what it wants up front. Ukraine pushes back, and maybe you get something in between?
It could well be. It could well be.
And what's most lopsided about it from your perspective?
Lopsided is it removes the ability of the Ukrainians to defend themselves.
A huge issue.
Huge issue.
Probably non-negotiable in the end. They've got to be able to defend themselves.
They have to be able to defend themselves. There are some talk of a security guarantee, but the real security guarantee is eventually NATO, which is ruled out in this. Limits on the size of the Ukrainian army, limits on the equipment that they can get from other nations to support them, to allow them to defend themselves against the Russians. It takes their ability to defend themselves against the Russians away. So so you're talking about negotiations. Presumably the Secretary of Army is there presenting this and is going to hear from President Zelenskyy sooner or later. I mean, President Zelenskyy gets this document. He may have had some indication of what's in it before. He will give some reaction. Like on the minerals deal, Major, that you talked about before, where the Secretary of Treasury came in, put a document on the table and said, I need you to sign this in an hour. And President Zelenskyy said, no, it's not the way we do this.
Right.
We'll look at it. We'll get our lawyers to look at it. We'll get our experts to look at it, and we'll make you a counteroffer. I expect some kind of a counterproposal to be made.
There has to be a counterproposal, and then we'll find out just how serious this 28 points actually are. What about territorial concessions?
The document, again, maybe not final, but the document asks, demands, requires the Ukrainians to pull out of territory that they control, that the Russians have been trying to get. Russians are trying to grab that territory for more than 2 years. And the Ukrainians have been defending against the Russians.
At high cost.
At very high cost. In particular, high cost for the Russians, let's be clear.
Right, both
Russian
sides.
soldiers. But a lot of Ukrainians have also died defending that territory, and this document says, give it up.
You have talked on this program many times, Ambassador Taylor, about the importance of the United States and the European nations to be cohesive on this. How do you think Europe, NATO, EU is looking at this document, even if it's informal?
I expect the European leaders who've got some relationship with President Trump to get on the phone. And they're going to make it very clear that documents need to be changed. This document needs to be negotiated. They want a role, but they also want to support Zelenskyy. They want him to be able to defend himself because he's defending them. He's defending the Europeans. So the Europeans, I think, have a lot at stake. They've indicated this is not a great document. Right. They've indicated that this is close to capitulation, to surrender on the part of the Ukrainians. They're not in favor of that.
So one thing that almost all sides agree on, it's President Trump singularly who can end this war. Europeans say that. President Zelenskyy says that. If that's true, and this is the opening gambit, is that discouraging to the Ukrainians?
President Trump has leverage over Putin that he could use right now.
He could tell the House to pass the sanctions bill, send it over to the Senate, and roll.
Absolutely. He could do that, and he could put sanctions on right now without that bill. But that would give him a lot of political cover to do exactly what you just said. But he's got that kind of leverage. He's also got leverage to give the Ukrainians the military capability to defend themselves. And if he uses those two levers, he can push Putin to come to a much better deal than what's in this document.
He has yet to be willing to do that, though.
He has put some sanctions on the two largest Russian oil companies. It did that, and that's having an effect. That's having an effect of reducing the volume of money, of rubles, that comes into the Russian treasury that allows them to pursue this war. So that's having an effect. He could do more of that.
He could do more. William Taylor, former ambassador to Ukraine. As always, sir, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Major.
Sources tell CBS News the Justice Department is reviewing the investigation into alleged mortgage fraud by California Democratic Senator Adam Schiff. California Republican congressional candidate Christine Bish is the one who submitted a tip alleging fraud by Schiff. She tells CBS News federal officials questioned her, but not about Schiff, but about officials investigating him. Bill Pulte, the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, and Ed Martin, the Justice Department's current pardon attorney. I know it sounds confusing, but whenever we're confused, we turn to Nicole Killian, who joins us now from Capitol Hill to explain things. Nicole, please.
Well, yeah, it is quite a confusing story, but certainly one that is garnering attention here on Capitol Hill, although Senator Adam Schiff is declining comment. What we do know through sources that have confirmed to CBS News is that the investigators who are investigating Adam Schiff, that there is some probe around the handling of that matter. Keep in mind that Bill Pulte, who you just referenced, was someone who referred an investigation to the Justice Department with respect to allegations of mortgage fraud. That review is still underway, but now we are learning that that probe may be under investigation. And so that is the matter at hand here. But as I mentioned, Adam Schiff tonight declining to comment.
One of the questions hanging in the air is Bill Pulte now losing some favor within the administration. Stay tuned on that front. Other matter to discuss with you, Nicole, Florida Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick charged with stealing $5 million in a federal indictment, and that theft was allegedly from FEMA. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the Congresswoman responding late today in front of her office. Take a listen to what she told reporters.
Well, it's an unjust indictment, and it seems like these intimidation tactics have been pervasive. We spent all week seeing different members getting censured, all in hopes of intimidating and kind of distracting from the Epstein files. And I look forward to my day in court so I can prove myself and actually state the truth.
So again, the Congresswoman accused of taking this overpayment from FEMA and funneling it to her congressional campaign back in 2021. I also talked to Florida Congressman Greg Steube, who has since filed an expulsion resolution against Congresswoman. Take a listen to why he's taking that action now.
Tell us why you decided to move forward with this expulsion resolution and why you chose expulsion over censure, which you previously threatened.
Yeah, so we initially were going to file a censure resolution removing her for committees, but if you read the indictment and the level of felonious activity that this was, I believe that this rose to the level of expulsion. I've called on her to resign. The Ethics Committee, I think, is close to releasing their report, which in that report is going to be all the evidence as it relates to their recommendation. There's some precedent of this in the House with the George Santos situation.
So the congressman telling me that he believes that the House Ethics Committee investigation that is currently underway into the Congresswoman could reveal much more that could ultimately compel her resignation. But should she not step down, he says he will make good on this threat to expel her. Major.
Nicole Killian with the facts and the sound bites from Capitol Hill, as always, comprehensive. Thank you so much. It happened last night with zero fanfare. Trump signed the Epstein files bill into law. What happens now? What will the public actually see? Well, I'm going to ask a former FBI counterintelligence agent to help us walk through that. Also, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reverses course. Its website now says there might be a link between childhood vaccines and autism. There is a lot of history and science here, ladies and gentlemen. And CBS News chief medical correspondent John LaPook will join me next to walk us through it. And we've had pizza, donuts, and hot dogs on this set. Tonight, roasted duck. Well, okay, it's air fryer duck, but it is an emerging Thanksgiving alternative to turkey, and we will find out why. The Takeout returns in 90 seconds. Welcome back. Welcome to the Conversation Corner. So happy to be here. The order to release the Epstein files, now law, but it contains exceptions. What are they, and what are the survivors and the public at large now likely to discover? Former FBI counterintelligence agent Eric O'Neill joins me now. He has extensive experience, high-profile investigations, including the one that led to the arrest of Robert Hanssen, the former FBI agent convicted of spying for Russia. There's a spectacular podcast on that called Agent of Betrayal. You'll recognize the voice. I recommend it highly. Eric, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. So there's this tremendous expectation that all of this stuff is going to tumble out of the possession of the Justice Department and maybe even the Treasury Department. You're skeptical of that. Tell my audience why.
Well, Major, we really need to manage expectations because a lot of the information that I think people really want to see, the ones that will help inform or deny all the conspiracy theories that have surrounded this case for all these years, are probably not going to be things people see. And the reason for that is there are categories of information that will lead to redactions. And I've done this on both sides. I've been undercover. I worked as an FBI investigator, and I did the redactions way back when. And back then, I'm dating myself, you used this heavy black marker, and you went over every line. Right. And the training was over-redact, because the last thing you want to do is inadvertently disclose something that goes to the public that you can never take back. Okay. And I've been on the other side as a national security attorney, fighting the government and saying, you over-redacted, because I know you do.
We need to know more.
Exactly. So here, what I think is that there are buckets of information that are going to lead to redactions of maybe the juiciest things, but people like me or others who have done this on either side will be able to read between the lines a little, at least to see what the DOJ is pursuing and what maybe they left behind.
And do you think anything that is disclosed could lead to prosecutions that have yet to be launched?
So I think some of the things that we won't see will be related to ongoing investigations. That's probably the biggest bucket.
But let me stop you there, because on July 7th, this Justice Department said there is no predicate for any future investigation into any co-conspirator.
And that actually shocked me. I can't understand that. We know there are victims.
They said 1,000, which was a number so much higher, Eric, than people who were deeply read in on this story imagined. They thought maybe in the 300s, 400s, 1,000. Like what?
Exactly.
And no future investigation.
So there have to be investigations. If there weren't before, I'm sure there are now. That this disclosure is going to happen. It would be embarrassing for the Justice Department to disclose their investigation and all their documents and show nothing open predicated on this incredible crime. I mean, this isn't just, some criminal enterprise. This is children who were sexually assaulted.
Groomed, recruited, and then assaulted.
Exactly. That's one of the most heinous crimes I can think of. That's trafficking in children. So I would hope that there is something in there, some underlying information that would suggest that there are ongoing investigations that are being pursued.
And Eric, there is a lot of noise around all the money that swirled around the Jeffrey Epstein financial empire. And that money might have been used to finance what you just described. Mm-hmm. Is that a punishable offense?
Well, certainly.
Okay. What do you have to establish to make it punishable?
Well, you just have to show the nexus, that the fact that the empire was used to do this. Now, Epstein, he's done.
Right,
he took his own life, and he's gone. But we would be looking for co-conspirators in the case. Now,
and there's financial records and money to follow, which is what Ron Wyden, the Democratic ranking member of the Finance Committee, keeps saying, follow the money.
Follow the money, right. But we also don't know what actually is there. We've seen a lot of emails.
Right.
But we don't know the underlying facts, and we don't know the aim or the goals of the investigation. And here's the other thing that I think is going to upset people. Most of those deliberations by the Justice Department will be legally privileged. Now, what you do, I was a general counsel for years, anytime you're going to have those high-level deliberations, you throw a lawyer in it. Right. And then you can maintain the legal privilege, especially if they're conversations between the DOJ and the FBI. You're also not going to see anything related to cooperating witnesses. So, let's say they're pursuing. I would be shocked if we're not going to see some evidence that they're pursuing investigations, right? And they found someone who said, hey, I know a lot of the facts and give me immunity and I'm your guy, right? And
or
probably
gal.
a guy,
right?
Right. And so you're going to just see cooperating witness one in any disclosure. Now, the neat thing here.
Very quickly.
Okay, really quickly. They got 30 days to release all this.
Right.
And then 15 days to show their work. Here's what we released, and here's what we didn't, and why. And that's going to be part of the congressional record. So that's going to give us an insight into what's really happening.
Eric O'Neill, thanks so much for walking us through it. I appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you, Major.
Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has, to put it mildly, brought a lot of changes to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It now, among those changes, includes one to the CDC's website saying there is a potential link between autism and vaccines. We're going to explore that next, right here on The Takeout. Welcome back to The Takeout. The CDC's website has made a significant change to its guidance on vaccines and autism. The site used to say, quote, no links have been found between any vaccine ingredients and autism spectrum disorder, unquote. It now reads, quote, vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim. Dr. John LaPook joins us from CBS News Broadcast Center in New York. Dr. LaPook, I know you have thoughts on this. Just hold them for a second, because one of the things we take pride here at The Takeout is not only telling our audience where a story is, but where it once was. So I want to play sound from February 4th from Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who supported the confirmation about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be HHS Secretary, and he talked specifically about guidance under RFK Jr. on autism and vaccines. Please listen.
It confirmed he will maintain the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices recommendations without changes. CDC will not remove statements on their website pointing out that vaccines do not cause autism.
Dr. LaPook, that's what the senator said. That's not what just happened.
No.
Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, Senator Cassidy's a physician, and I actually interviewed him for a different story. And I know he takes all this super seriously, and he's written about the importance of vaccines. So clearly something changed. And, we all remember that he agonized over that weekend, right, from Friday to Monday. I mean, on Friday we thought, well, maybe he was going to be thumbs down on the confirmation. And then on Monday, based on those assurances and reassurances that he mentioned, he voted yes. But certainly things have changed.
And talk to my audience about what we know, what the studies have said, and about this statement and how different it is from what the CDC has historically said on this particular topic.
Yeah, well, the last part is very easy. They have said vaccines do not cause autism. That's what the vast scientific consensus is. And I think you need a little history lesson here, Major. There was no mention, there was no national movement about that there was some kind of a link between vaccines and autism until 1998. 1998, there was a small study in the British journal called The Lancet, and it purported to link measles, mumps, and rubella, MMR vaccine, with autism. Well, that was completely, there was an investigation, and it was felt that was fraudulent research. However, it took 12 years for that, from 1998 to 2010, before The Lancet withdrew that article. And in that 12 years, of course, it flamed up throughout the world, really, saying, well, is there a link? And so because of that study, dozens of studies were done over decades, some very large ones, more than 1 million people in Denmark, that never found any link between vaccines and autism. So, it's very hard to prove a negative, Major. How do you prove that something doesn't exist. But after a while, when you've done so many different studies, and you have every single major society saying, there's no link that's been established, I mean, I think you have to take it. And I would just end with this. There's a lot of frustration in the medical community and research community because all these years and years were spent basically investigating a hypothesis based on that fraudulent 1998 paper. Could you imagine if all that time and effort and money had been spent not only looking for a cause for autism, but looking for ways to make an early diagnosis and address early treatment? I mean, it's very frustrating. Happy to see that NIH is going to put $50 million into research. That can't come a second too soon.
Dr. John LaPook, as always, sir, thank you so very much. President Trump is set to welcome another New Yorker to the White House tomorrow. That's where their similarities end. Our political panel will discuss New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's visit to Washington, among other topics. Next, here on The Takeout. Welcome back to The Takeout. We started the show with this. Democrats throughout Washington condemning President Trump's post on social media about 6 lawmakers who released a video directed to the nation's military and intelligence community, telling them they didn't have to follow illegal orders, which, as we pointed out at the top of the show, is consistent with the Code of Military Justice. Ashley Etienne, Lance Trover are here. Ashley, CBS News political contributor, former communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris. Lance, Republican strategist. Doug Burgum's press secretary for his presidential bid. All right, we'll get to that thing I talked about in the intro in a second, but with no fanfare, with no survivors around at the White House, no cameras, rare for President Trump to sign anything without cameras, the Epstein matter is now law. Lance, what's the country going to find out in the next few weeks?
Well, if I'm the Democrats, I'm the ones who are concerned. Everybody, we know what Donald Trump's involvement was with Epstein. He's made it clear he kicked him out of his
Good friends
club.
for a long time. Then there was a breakup.
This is my point. I think the country knows, but what we don't know, we learned yesterday, Hakeem Jeffries was soliciting money from this guy after he'd been convicted already. We have a woman, a member of Congress, who was taking orders during a committee hearing from him. So if I'm the Democrats, I think we have a lot more to learn.
Ashley?
I don't think Democrats are sweating this thing out. I mean, it's clear that President Trump has been sweating it out, which is why he tried to cover this thing up and went to such extremes as to pressure Republican members to take their name off the discharge petition. And
which they did.
They did. And so, but it raises the question of what is he so aggressively trying to hide? If he's not in it, then let it go. Why all of these shenanigans? But here's what I like to do. Caution any sort of excitement or exuberance from both sides of the particular aisle. Donald Trump is never going to give himself up. We have to admit that. And now that there's a clause within the law that will allow him to withhold documents if there's an active ongoing investigation.
Which he ordered last week.
So the reality is many of these documents likely will not get out. And so we'll really never know the truth. And if they do come out, do you think we should believe them? I mean, this is a president who has a penchant for lying, who has an entire DOJ and apparatus around him that's going to do whatever he says. They're going to flout the law to do that. So I'm not sure we should even buy into what the documents are.
Lance, jump in.
What do you mean? How can you believe them? If they're documents, they're documents. Now,
No, but you can withhold documents. I've done investigations.
Yeah, well, I mean, your previous guest talked about it. I mean, they may, which he said, they were trained to over-redact. That may happen. This is going to go on for months and months and months, and I'm going to guess both sides of the political aisle are going to get really tired of talking about it at some point.
And ultimately be dissatisfied with the outcome.
I think that's right.
I think this is like one of those, like, who shot Kennedy? Both sides are never going to be happy. There's always going to be conspiracy theories.
All right.
And I love that.
I want your thoughts. I want your thoughts, both of you, on the video released by 2 Democratic senators, 4 members of the House, all Democrats, all who served in the U.S. intelligence community or on the U.S. military, and President Trump's subsequent reaction. Ashley?
I mean, good for them. I mean, it's about time someone starts to speak up. You know, we've got 2 incidents right now where the president is unlawfully using our military against the American people. One is what we're seeing happen in Chicago and North Carolina, where the deployment of National Guard is really harassing people on the streets. I mean, wasting $15 to, almost $500 million is what the number is right now. So good for them. And then we've got another situation in Venezuela where members of Congress legitimately on both sides of the aisle are saying the president is violating the War Powers Resolution with the aggression that he's showing in the Caribbean towards the Venezuelan, with dozens of people that have lost their lives. So good for them. But here's the part that concerns me most, is that we have crickets on the part of the Republican Party. Why are they so silent in the face of the president's disregard for the law? That's the part that concerns me
Lance,
most.
jump in.
That's fine. That's your opinion. That's their opinion.
These are facts. These are
Nobody has said this is the problem with that video. They were implying that people are breaking the law, that they should be insubordinate. I mean, I can't think of a greater problem.
The video says
you have to watch the video.
No. They are implying
that's
that they are breaking laws.
That's the inference you're drawing from there.
Their point was,
come on, guys. Let's call it for what it was.
Did you watch it? Their point was a restatement of the law, which is to say,
restatement of the law. In other words, we think you're breaking the law, so go ahead and violate and be insubordinate.
Do not break the law is what they said. I mean, that's if you watch the video.
We all know what they were trying to do.
Did the president overreact? Lindsey Graham said he overreacted.
It took the president saying what he said for people in the media to start to notice that these guys were telling military members to be insubordinate.
Lance, we already know.
Can I just add this? Can I just add this, Lance? Here's the real challenge for Donald Trump is that his base, he's actually losing support among his base on these particular issues: the deployment, Venezuela, him not focusing on an America First agenda. He's actually losing support among his. So this is becoming a vulnerability for him.
Very
and
quickly,
this is the aspects of Trump that people dislike most.
I'm going to take you back to some part of your life that you so thoroughly enjoy. I want you to listen to Mike Donilon, former very top advisor to Joe Biden at the University of Southern California, talking about how the Democrats were so mean to President Biden. Listen.
Still talking about Joe Biden.
There have been 3 people who've run against Donald Trump. Joe Biden's the only person who ever beat him. I thought what happened in the party was, I thought it was disloyal.
Ashley, you have a whole minute. Lance, I know you're just going to want to listen.
I'll let it go.
Just going to let it go. Ashley, it's all yours.
I'm going to say something you won't expect me to say. I think without COVID, Joe Biden doesn't beat Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is that talented of a political athlete that Joe Biden, if it were not for COVID and the economy tanking, I don't think he would have.
I don't think he would have. 2020 election.
Now, can I make another point that I think you're going to be surprised by? I think all these Biden people need to move on past Joe Biden. I recently saw him in Amtrak. I think we need to focus on his health. I think we need to, usher him out, of this business with the parade and the fanfare that he deserved, given what he was able to accomplish.
I saw on social media after that Mike Donilon interview, silence is free. Ashley Etienne, Lance Trover, thank you very, very much. Next, out with turkey and in with the duck. Maybe, maybe not. Why affordability might be changing your Thanksgiving dinner menu. The Takeout cooks up a dish of duck. We really do. Watch it. It's coming up next. Welcome back. I've been waiting to say this for months. We are cooking now. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But first, in exactly 1 week from today, you can expect a parade, football, maybe some mashed potatoes and gravy. But for some, one of the biggest Thanksgiving traditions, turkey, well, may be becoming a bit of a thing of the past. Here is why. A recent report from the Department of Agriculture finds wholesale prices for frozen turkeys up 40% per pound compared to last year. And some are turning to a different and cheaper alternative, duck. Duck, yes. Nobody better to explain how this is happening than Allison Tucker, who joins me now. She is the National Accounts Manager for Maple Leaf Farms and works with restaurant chains and food service operations on duck product purchases. And as you can see, everyone, we are cooking. We are going to be cooking. This is going to be a cooking segment on the Takeout. You know I want to have food involved all the time. It doesn't always happen as frequently as I'd like, but it's going to happen real big now. Allison, great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Tell me about duck. Tell me about this transition. Price, generational also?
A little bit of everything. I think first and foremost, duck is a delicious protein and people are so excited about it. But recently we've been seeing an increase in excitement in younger generations. Duck is consumed at a quicker clip, globally speaking, and younger generations are really excited about global cuisines and global flavors, and duck really brings that authenticity to it. So for that reason, we're seeing a lot of growth.
And some people might assume duck is hard to cook, that there are all sorts of challenges with it. I'm guessing you're here to tell me that's not necessarily true.
No, I completely disagree. First, we have a variety of products that we've come out with that save a lot of time in the kitchen, and we've brought that ease of use to you, like this roast half duck today, as well as some other items like our duck wing drumettes.
There you
Those
go.
are ready to go, air fryer ready. So that's a beautiful option. But for things that are more of a raw product, or if you want to do a little more complicated recipe, our website, mapleleaffarms.com, has a variety of videos and informational tools to help you along in the
We
kitchen.
have an air fryer here. You mentioned air frying. We'll get to that in a second. We'll have a live, a real demonstration, a genuine demonstration. But you can do it in the oven, and you can even do it in a deep fryer.
Oh, yeah. The roast half duck can be used in pretty much any kitchen setup that you have. It's about 15 to 20 minutes in a conventional oven. Talk about the easiest sheet pan meal during the week. Veggies, roast half, ready to go. But if you're an air fryer guy yourself, this is wonderful. Beeps at us right now. Or in a kitchen, deep fryer, crispy duck in 5 minutes. I'm telling you.
So I'm going to look over here. You describe this. What is this?
This is our roast half duck.
Okay.
And actually next year, we are celebrating 50 years with roast half duck. It was my grandfather's brainchild, and we've decided to make having a wonderful piece of duck easy for your home cooking.
As I understand it, pre-cooked and seasoned.
Correct. Just
so you're going to unsheath it.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to leave it to a professional, because that's what I do. A man's got to know its limitations, ladies and gentlemen. You take it out and show us how we do it in the air fryer.
Of course. So we're going to put this in the air fryer at about 390 degrees for about 12 minutes or so. That's kind of what we recommend. And once it's in there and ready to go, it comes out perfectly nice and crispy. Beautiful color all ready to go.
Slide it in there. There, I told you this is going to be a genuine, actual demonstration with noises and everything. See?
And then press start.
Press start. There
And
we go.
that'll be ready for you very soon.
And it's beeping, and it's making the noise.
That's when you know.
And because it's like a cooking show, we have one that was just done a couple of seconds ago, just before we started this. And I'm going to give it a try, okay?
Okay.
All
Let me
right.
hear your thoughts.
Now, so it's Thanksgiving Day, and you're in a time crunch. Not anymore.
Nope. This will do all the work for you.
See this? Here we go. Now, the skin is really crispy, which is kind of key for duck, right?
It is. So I think people get a little concerned about cooking with duck
good.
because
That's really
of that. I know. And we kind of helped make that right to crispy skin with this roast half duck. And it's wonderful.
And you mentioned before we started this, Allison, that it's slightly deboned, so it's not really complicated to cut or serve or have for people.
Correct. It's
They're gonna
partially
be like,
deboned.
oh my gosh, what do I do with the duck?
Exactly. You can, with that wonderful piece, cut right through the middle, and you can have 2 servings for you and someone at home, the leg side and then kind of the wing breast side, and cuts right through. No bones having to deal with in that sense.
Give me the price analysis on this again. So it's cheaper.
So for duck, you might see per pound a little higher than turkey, particularly around the holidays when it's a discounted price. But because ducks are smaller than turkeys, for a normal smaller size family or friend get together, it's going to be a cheaper price.
So for Friendsgiving, this is kind of, and that's the generational thing. Younger Americans doing more Friendsgiving, maybe one thing is a little on the smaller side.
Without a doubt.
Don't want to have turkey sandwiches for the next 4 weeks.
No, duck's the way to go.
I'm kidding about that, but yes.
But you don't have to just stop with the roast half or a whole duck. There are other things like our duck fat that you can use in your mashed potatoes.
What do you do? What do you use duck fat with?
What don't you?
Okay.
I call it liquid gold personally. I mean, you can make sweet items with it, like a cookie, and kind of replace shortening instead, because it's a little healthier option than a shortening. Or if you like adult beverages, think about a duck fat washed bourbon cocktail. So it really is very versatile across the board.
I will say, Allison, you got my attention with that last one, but I'll just leave it at that. Allison Tucker, duck, air fryer, we did it. It's fantastic. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure's mine.
Happy Thursday, everyone. This is The Takeout, relentlessly curious, sometimes hungry, reliably civil, and occasionally clever. The Daily Report coming up next.